I'm Warren Sharp, and this is Sharp Football Analysis. I'm sure this has become your new favorite sports betting podcast. We did it again last week for you guys. We turned another best bet winner gold, and now we are 9-1 on the season with our best bet winners, 31-10 since I started this week one of the 2024 football season. We're looking to go 10-1 this week with another best bet winner. We've got all that and much more in store for you. I've assembled a team of experts. We're going to be talking college and NFL, giving you guys some of our favorite bets and looks while breaking down the games, supported with a ton of interesting and factual analysis for you to learn something from on this show. But before we get into it, I do need to mention it is our annual free week. What does that mean? Free week. Everything that we do that normally is behind a paywall is completely free. All of our written content and analysis, but for most of you guys, what you care about is all of our bets. Everything that we send out to clients for the NFL, whether it's sides, totals, teasers, props, you name it, that is all free. You need to go to sharp.football for all of the details for exclusive Week 11 free week information. We'll talk more about that later. But today, we're going to break down Notre Dame at Pittsburgh, Texas at Georgia, and then in the NFL, the big games in the afternoon slate, the Chiefs at the Broncos, the Seahawks at the Rams, the Packers at the Giants, the Bengals at the Steelers, the Bucs at the Bills, the Bears at the Vikings, and much, much more with analysis and picks for all of these games, all while making the games more entertaining to watch and hopefully a little bit of money in the process. Before we get started, need to mention once again, we give away money on this show. Last week, our $100 giveaway goes to Justin B. Justin B won $100. He picked in the comments below Devonta Smith to score the first touchdown in the Eagles-Packers Monday night game. We are rolling this contest back again. We're giving away another $100. All you have to do is go into the comments below and comment who you think scores the first touchdown in the Monday night game between the Cowboys and the Raiders. Just type the name of who you think is going to score that first touchdown. We will pick a winner to receive $100 added to their Novig account. Make sure that you have a Novig account. If you don't, it's easy to get one. Just click the link in the description below. You can get on board real quick, and you can get a $100 purchase match when you sign up. So sign up, get $100 definitely, then have a shot at another $100. That's $200 maybe that you're getting here. We just started the show. Plenty more where that came from. Let's get started. All right, guys, we have a great podcast in store for you today. A lot to discuss, a lot of fun props, a lot of fun bets, college, NFL, etc. Before we get into that, let's break down the Thursday night game that we just saw between the Patriots and the Jets. Also, quick reminder, make sure that you subscribe over on YouTube. Make sure that you give us a thumbs up if you love this content. Make sure that you subscribe over on your other podcast platforms, whatever you do to digest podcasts. Make sure that you subscribe to us over there, Sharp Football Analysis. Look, this game, although it seemed a little close early, and the Jets did have some success driving the ball down their field on the opening drive, obviously the Patriots were in control of this game for probably the end of that first drive that the Jets had to the end of the game. There really was not very much of a doubt who was going to win this game. The only question was, were they going to cover the spread, 12.5 points? They end up indeed covering the point spread. But where this game comes down to is the Patriots' identity early on in this game was all about the run game with Travion Henderson. He gained more yards after contact in this game than he had total rushing yards on the ground, meaning he was contacted at or behind the line of scrimmage more frequently, and he had extra success on those runs, getting past the line of scrimmage and beyond. He forced a career high 9 missed tackles across 24 touches. I'm not sure why they weren't playing him earlier. This whole going back to the Ramondre Stevenson thing, especially after Ramondre Stevenson was fumbling the football and Mike Vrabel just kept returning back to Ramondre Stevenson, really unnecessary. At the end of the day, does it matter? No, it doesn't matter, because the Patriots were winning those games. The Patriots are sitting 9-2. We'll talk about their record in a moment. But this team is obviously set up very well on, I think, like an 8-game win streak and continue to roll over the Jets tonight. Drake May was probably the most impressive player on the field, although it was a career game for Travion Henderson, and he has now scored 5 touchdowns over the last 5 days, which is insane. Drake May was the story of this game to me. Just seeing his development close up, being able to focus only on this game, standalone primetime game, watching the calmness that he navigated the pocket. And I wrote this, and I'm just going to read it. Drake May sure is nifty and creative. He just has a savvy veteran knack for buying time, remaining poised, and getting the most out of plays. You could see him learning right before our eyes. And obviously, this is just his 23rd NFL start, and he was a player that did not start very many games in college as well. He's only getting better, and obviously, I think this big jump that he's taken this year, in large part, has come due to coaching with Josh McDaniels and play calling and putting Drake May in the best positions possible. But nearly all of Drake May's production against the Jets came on dropbacks lasting over 2.5 seconds. 237 of his 281 passing yards and his lone touchdown came when he was holding the ball in the pocket. And what he was doing was he wasn't getting flustered. He wasn't rushing through his reads. He was moving around in the pocket. He was stepping up into the pocket to avoid a pass rush that was coming behind him. And he was sometimes taking off. And just as he was about to cross that line of scrimmage, he was calm, resetting his feet and throwing the ball, or sometimes just a little touch pass over the top to a tight end, potentially in his number one tight end there, Hunter Henry, or maybe a running back, maybe Stephon Diggs, short underneath passes. Truly incredible the way that he was just so calm and poised for such a inexperienced quarterback overall, that really the sky's the limit for what he could ultimately be in the NFL. And it's fun to watch him through 3 quarters of this game. I'm going to read down some of these wide receiver targets, these targets that he was throwing the ball to. He averaged 12.5 air yards to Mac Hollins, but still was 4 for 4. He averaged 8.3 air yards to Hunter Henry, but still was 4 for 4. He averaged 9 air yards to Stephon Diggs, but was 7 of 9. I mean, we're talking about, I'll keep going. Demario Douglas, a little bit lower air yards, 5.7. He was 3 of 3. And then to Travion Henderson, he was 4 of 4 with 3 air yards per target. Obviously, he's a running back. So accuracy, despite different levels of the field. Now, the one guy that he never could connect with was Kyle Williams. He was 0 of 3 to Kyle Williams through the first 3 quarters, averaging 36 air yards. So, I mean, these were deep, explosive plays that they were trying to dial up for a young player to work him into the offense a little bit more and create some excitement when they could, because they felt pretty good about where they were. They could afford to throw 3 incompletions and still mop up the field with the New York Jets. But they wanted to create some explosiveness and some excitement and get this young guy involved. And he was just not on the same page. I mean, he was turning the wrong direction a couple of times. He stopped his route when clearly Drake May was throwing it deeper. And so the pass was not anywhere close to where he ended up. He wasn't even in the frame of the camera at the time when the pass landed on the ground. So there was some miscommunication there. They've got to obviously get a little bit better on the mini buy here. But one of the things that I loved about hearing from the Patriots was Robert Spillane, obviously linebacker for the New England Patriots, team captain, said that the Patriots opted to practice outside this week because they wanted cold weather to be an advantage for them later on in the season. The head coach Mike Vrabel offered to move the Tuesday practice when it was brutally cold. I don't know if you're on the East Coast, you can remember a few days back to Tuesday. I mean, one of the coldest days that we've had on record so far this year. Obviously going to get a lot colder. Offered to move Tuesday's practice inside. And the team leaders went to him and said, no, we want to play outside. We're going to practice outside because we're going to play outside. And we want that to become an advantage for us later on this season. Why could it be an advantage? Well, they might be hosting some playoff games in the future this year. That's because they're 9-2 now that they beat the Jets. They're sitting at the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. And listen to the schedule that they got coming up. Next week is the 3-6 Bengals with the Patriots off of this little mini bye. Then they take on the 2-8 Giants. Fired their head coach. Who knows? Are they going to be starting their backup quarterback at that point in time? Are they going to skip Jackson Dart back in time? Is Jameis Winston? Like, who knows what's going to happen with the Giants, but they're 2 wins, 8 losses. Then the Patriots have a bye week, the last bye week possible. So that's the other thing about this team. A lot of times when you have a very late bye week, you're worried about your injuries. You're worried about your health. You hope that you're not losing any of these games along the way because you really need to get recharged off of a bye week. And so a lot of teams, when they have a bye week, week 8, week 9, week 10, week 11, they feel great. It's in the middle of the season. It's going to help recharge them. The Patriots bye week is at the end of the season. If this team can beat the 3-6 Bengals and the 2-8 Giants and go into the bye 11-2, I mean, that's a massive advantage for them as they go down the road to the playoffs because it's the last bye that any team will have. Then they do have a tough game against the 6-3 Buffalo Bills, but it's in New England. They already beat the Bills, obviously. They have a game against the 4-5 Baltimore Ravens, week 16. And then they close out the season with a game against the 2-8 Jets again and a game against the 3-7 Dolphins, which is in New England. Last game of the season, obviously brutal cold for Mike McDaniel and Tua. So they could be looking at a first-round bye. They could be looking at a trip to home field advantage throughout the postseason as long as they keep winning these games. So outstanding for them. Let's talk about what's not outstanding. Obviously, with the good comes bad in any game like this. The New York Jets. I just want to talk to you guys for a brief second about what they did on their opening drive. This team won the toss and selected the football. They wanted to start their game out. And this is what they did on their opening drive. 11 runs, 1 wide receiver pass, as in a wide receiver threw the pass, and 2 Justin Fields pass attempts. They basically did everything that they possibly could in those 14 plays to not have Justin Fields throw the football. I think he threw the football the very first play of the game, and the first play of that drive, obviously, and the very last play of the drive, which was like a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, where they had to throw the ball. They scored a touchdown on that pass. They were trying to do everything they could to stop Justin Fields from passing the football, and it was quite obvious. We have no confidence in Justin Fields. We want to take the ball out of his hands. We want to try to figure out if we can win without Justin Fields throwing passes in this game. Let me tell you, you can't. The reason you can't is because of 2 things. Number one, you have the worst turnover margin in the NFL. You do not have a domestic takeaway, which was a hilarious line that they said on the broadcast because they had 1 takeaway over in their international game. So they do not have a single domestic takeaway. And they're playing scared on offense. And let me tell you this, Aaron Glenn thinks that they can operate in the first half of games, nickel and diming their way down the field, converting on 3rd downs, controlling the clock, keeping the ball out of Justin Fields' hands, and eventually scoring. Let me give you a hint. The very, very best teams in the NFL struggle massively to do that. The Kansas City Chiefs last year were a team that was not explosive at all. And they had to convert 3rd downs after 3rd downs, and they barely were able to do it. They had a down year with their offensive efficiency, but they were able to convert on 3rd downs and drive the ball down the field enough to score. And that's with Andy Reid calling the plays, and that's with Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback position. There's no way in hell that the New York Jets are going to be able to operate nickel and diming and converting 3rd downs after 3rd down on 15-play drives and just do that all throughout the course of the game. I mean, Kirk Herbstreit, don't know what this guy is talking about half the time, comes out and says that this is exactly what they want to do every drive. This is how they want to operate. Let me give you a hint. You're not going to get that every drive. The defense is going to take that away from you after they let you do it the first series, maybe. The Patriots came up and really shut that down and forced them to have to throw the ball a little bit more. And guess what? The other thing is you've got to get your quarterback a little bit settled in. If you play conservatively like you're playing in the first half of a game, you're going to be losing at halftime. And when you're losing at halftime, then what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to let your quarterback throw. So whether you like it or not, this is 2025. Your quarterback is going to have to throw the ball. The only way that he's not going to have to throw the ball is if you get lucky as hell, like you did in last week's game with a couple of return touchdowns on special teams, which is very unlikely to happen. So you are going to either need to get your quarterback worked in early in the game, get him feeling comfortable, or you're going to have to throw the ball late in the game. One of the two is going to need to happen here regardless. And Aaron Glenn just cannot get it through his head that he thinks that they can just play this conservative brand of football. And so, yeah, I'm like everybody else who thinks Justin Fields has played terribly. And Justin Fields can't be the starting quarterback of this team much longer if this is what they think of him. If they're so scared to actually let him throw the ball, if they can't even design some pass plays for him on the opening script when it should be super easy, if all they want to do is run the ball and have wide receivers throw it, then what is the point of having Justin Fields out there? I'm questioning those same things. But at the same time, I'm questioning the philosophy and the strategy of Aaron Glenn and this offensive coordinator, because what they're trying to do is not going to work. And what they're asking Justin Fields to be successful in doing is he's not going to be successful. You're not going to have a quarterback who feels comfortable when you rarely want him to throw the ball, basically never. You're not designing anything easy for him. The only times that you need him to throw the ball or that you ask him to throw the ball is on 3rd and long, because the nickel and dime stuff you were trying on early downs gets behind the sticks. A quarterback's not going to have success doing that. And you need to get him a little bit more involved early on. So that really is frustrating to me watching this, just from a coaching and a tactics perspective, as well as just the disgusting way that the New York Jets are trying to play this brand of football. Last thing I just want to add here, I saw a couple things about the NFL today that are just on the radar. Might as well talk about them. NFL is trying to ban player props in some capacity. I saw some sort of a memo come out. They want to investigate the player props or whatnot. Yet this is the same league that seems to be so concerned with making everything above board and having no issues. And yet every single week their refs have issues. Every single game, there's something with the refs that have issues. And the NFL could go in and do a little bit better job of the replay, get more aggressive with making the tweaks whenever they see something, get more people in on the reviews so that we can make sure that the right calls are being executed on the field of play. Add a couple extra officials standing on the first down line at all times so we can see if the ball carrier did indeed get close to the first down to gain. I still take issue with this. They have the only guys that are spotting as the line judges standing at the line of scrimmage and having to look 10 yards, 8 yards down the field on a 3rd down play to see if the runner reached the first down, and then running up and trying to spot it, doing total guesswork. They implemented little cameras in these little cones that they set on the first down line to gain. Why not just stick a couple of extra officials there to help the crew out spotting whether or not the guy got a first down? It's only the most important thing on a series of downs is, do you get a first down? And we don't even have people who can spot it correctly. And we're making this, we've got this technology that's going to spot the ball for us. That doesn't spot the ball. They're trying to trick all of the fans at home. That's not spotting the ball. That's just the measurement. The spot is still made by the guy standing at the line of scrimmage. So the spots are off. I still have issue with that. They could improve that. The replay system, they could improve. The refs have a lot of issues. And yet we're talking about a couple of player props or some nonsense. That bothers me. The second thing that I saw come out today that was really bothersome was the NFLPA allows all of their players to submit grades on their working environment, and those get published anonymously, and they get ranked as to the facilities and the dining facilities and the weight room and the locker room and the travel of the airplanes to one team to the other team for road trips, and how they're being treated by their medical teams and that sort of thing. And you got Woody Johnson, who is he's the owner of the Jets, the only owner who got an F grade this past 2025 review on the report card, comes out and tries to he's trying to spearhead banning these grades because he thinks it looks bad on himself, the rest of the teams. He doesn't want the players to be able to have a voice and grade them. And I got to pull up my my little notes here to, I got a hilarious screenshot of one of the comments that was made during the review. Here is one of the comments that was made. Rather than addressing the Jets' concerns, and I'm quoting this, from prior feedback, from the 2024 feedback, players believe that management responded to feedback by making the conditions worse. For example, after receiving low grades for their food program last year, players felt the team cut the food budget and did not retain their longtime dietitian, who was previously their highest rated staff member. That former dietitian took a full-time job with the Kansas City Chiefs last year, contributing to significant improvements in their food program and dietitian grades. So, I mean, the Jets feel like there's spite going on here with the ownership of the New York Jets. And now the New York Jets owner, Woody Johnson, just wants to get rid of these grades entirely. There are some things about this like multi-billion dollar league that are just so ridiculously easy to solve, and they're so thin-skinned at times and worried about the wrong things. It's just frustrating at times being a fan of the league. Speaking of which, I just want to ask, is anybody still holding on the ESPN? You guys commented last week in the comments below on YouTube telling me if you were still holding out from ESPN. If you are still holding out from ESPN, keep putting the Braveheart hold down there. They say that they're holding out on converting back to YouTube. They say they're going to hold out as long as it takes. I think Bob Iger was reported saying that. So they're trying to hold out as long as it takes. I'm curious if any of you guys finally were like, okay, enough's enough. I need to cave in, or if you guys are still holding out as well. All right, well, we've got a lot to discuss here for some of the key storylines. It is, I'll talk about it in a moment, the best Sunday of the year, in my opinion, with competitive games. And it's one of the reasons that we're doing Free Week. Once again, Free Week is this week. Let's hear a little bit more about Free Week right now. Our 2025 Free Week is officially here. This week, you can get all of my client-only betting recommendations and analysis for free. That's right, free, which is why we call it Free Week. Get it? So go to sharp.football to join today. Each year, we pull back the curtain and pick 1 week and 1 week only to give away everything for free to show our appreciation for all your support throughout the season, to show you a little bit more about our process. Our team works around the clock, making sure our clients have an edge heading into every game, and we're proud to showcase this incredible work with all of you. If you've been watching this show since the beginning of the year, you know that my favorite bets of the week have been crushing. I am 9-1, that's 90% on my recommendations on this show. But now you can get all of my recommendations, not just the podcast best bet, for free. A $100 bettor has won $4,972 following my plays this season. If you've been waiting for the right opportunity to check us out, today is the day. Go to sharp.football, click the top link, and win with us this weekend. One of the biggest talking points over the last several weeks in the NFL analytics community has been the increase in the usage of 2 and 3 tight end sets for the LA Rams, and how different it has been this year compared to what it was last year when the LA Rams led the NFL in usage of 11 personnel. And everybody's talking about how the Rams are all of a sudden this year switching and morphing into more of a heavier personnel style offense. And I got one thing to say to that. Did you get a copy of my 2025 football preview book? If you got a copy of my 2025 football preview book, please go immediately to the Rams chapter in this book. And I'm going to read from that Rams chapter in this book. I've printed off some of the sheets, but you can find it here. You might have the PDF, or you might have bought this over at Amazon, which so far we've gotten some great feedback. The people, not only did we get great feedback when we published the book, but a lot of people have said how accurate this book has been, how much it's helped them with a lot of the futures that they bet that are looking really good right now and going to be cashing soon in people's bankrolls. But let me read a couple things from the 2025 football preview book about the LA Rams. Something that Sean McVay must fix if the Rams are going to reach their ceiling is, I said, quote, "We know McVay loves his 11 personnel. He's at 91% usage of 11 personnel in goal-to-go situations. Not only is that number one in the NFL, but it's number one by a mile. The NFL average is only 55%. There is a very strong correlation to success in goal to go and not using 11 personnel. Over the last 3 years, of the top 10 teams in 11 personnel rate in goal to go, only one of them ranked top 10 in success. Meanwhile, of the bottom 10 teams in usage of 11 personnel and goal to go, 6 ranked top 10 in success in that area of the field. Over the last 3 years, league-wide passing efficiency for all teams over the last 3 years in 3 wide receiver sets, minus 0.06 EPA per attempt, but with fewer than 3 wide receivers, that means 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends, etc., plus 0.04 EPA per attempt. The swing was massive, and Sean McVay being 91% in goal to go, while league average is 55%, has become a problem for the Rams. I also mentioned that this is not a sample size issue. This has been a problem that's plagued the Rams, not just in 2024, but in the prior years as well, and how much more efficient the Rams were when they chose to pass the ball out of sets that included 2 or fewer wide receivers as opposed to the 3+ wide receiver sets. I've got all the listings of the different groupings in the chapter. And I concluded this section by saying this: you need to make the proper adjustments in 2025 and not continue to use insane rates of 11 personnel when passing. Frankly, I'm surprised the Rams analytics staff or game management coordinator John Streicher has not brought up this issue with McVay. So the LA Rams have obviously morphed and gone this way where they've been utilizing more heavier personnel. And this is a large part of the reason why this team has been as successful as it's been so far this season. The funny part is you might think that, oh, well, the Rams now have Devontae Adams to pair with Puka Nacua. And why would we want to take one of those guys off the field and use 13 personnel? But that's what they're doing. That's part of what I was suggesting. And that's exactly what's leading to the success for the Rams. It's going to be fascinating to watch them go up against the Seattle Seahawks on a massively important game for the overall NFC playoff picture, as well as the NFC West, Sunday afternoon. I cannot wait. All right, guys, speaking of that 4 p.m. slate, I want to make sure that I do a heads up public service announcement for you. Get all your chores done on Saturday. You're not going to have any time on Sunday. I know a lot of people were on Twitter last Sunday after the 1 p.m. games concluded, as all of these 4 p.m. Eastern time kickoffs were blowouts, asking, should I go do chores? What should I do? I was suggesting that people take naps, which I think is a great thing to do if you have the time. I rarely, if ever, have the time to do it, but a nice second half of a 20-plus point blowout game, and we had 3 of them on TV last Sunday afternoon. That's a great time to sneak a quick little nap in before the games finish and Sunday Night Football gets started. But this week, that's not going to be the case, because we are about to be blessed with one of the most incredible 4 p.m. slates potentially of the entire season. First, we've got the 49ers taking on the Cardinals. So this might not sound like a big game, but we might see Brock Purdy back. The 49ers are still in playoff contention, sitting at 6-4. The Arizona Cardinals looking far better without Kyler Murray at quarterback with Jacoby Brissett. That's going to be a fun game, but that's the worst of the 4 games that we've got at 4 p.m. We also, at 4:05 Eastern time kickoff, have the Rams versus the Seahawks. I just talked about the Rams a second ago. We're going to talk more about this game later on in the show as well. One of the massivest games of the entire season between 2 teams that are leading their division basically in the NFC West. This game's going to go a long way towards determining who wins the NFC West. Also, 4:25, we've got the Chiefs at the Broncos. Another tremendous game. This game is going to go a long way to determining, can the Chiefs somehow avoid being a wild card team? Because if they want to avoid being a wild card team and going on the road for the playoffs, they're going to need to win this game against the Denver Broncos to have any shot at all at winning the AFC West, because the Denver Broncos right now are 8-2. The Kansas City Chiefs are 5-4. The Chiefs would drop to 5-5. The Broncos would move to 9-2. You're really not going to be able to overcome that the rest of the season. So must-win game for the Kansas City Chiefs. Fun game with the Chiefs being a small, well, a little bit more of a moderate -4, -3.5 point favorite in Denver. And then also at 425, we have Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Cleveland Browns. You might think that this is a terrible game and falls into that category of a blowout, but be careful. The point spread is dropping on this game. Money is coming in on the Cleveland Browns. Weather looks like it could be questionable in Cleveland late in the day. The sun's going to be down. We're going to have some wind. Anything could happen in a game like this. It's going to be a fun one to watch. So all four of these games, a lot of fun. It's going to make up for last week's terrible 4 p.m. slate. The Buffalo Bills have to get on track after an embarrassing loss to the Miami Dolphins down in Miami last week. And this week they take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a game that could have a little bit of weather involved as well. I think there are 3 big factors for the Buffalo Bills offense as they're trying to get on track here. The first one is, how does Josh Allen handle the blitz? I've got some numbers here for you. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, number 6 in blitz rate, number 5 in pressure rate. Now, Josh Allen has done really well against the blitz. He ranks number 9 in yards per attempt with 8.3, number 16 in EPA at plus 0.06. So he's done well against the blitz so far this year. But if he gets pressured on those blitzes, and again, Bucs are top 5 at doing this, Josh Allen drops all the way down to number 31 in EPA at minus 0.7, number 37 in success rate at 18%, and number 31 in yards per attempt at 4.2. So expect blitzes. Can Josh Allen diagnose it and get rid of the ball before that pressure hits home? Because his splits with or without pressure on blitzes are massive. Second aspect here is, how often does Buffalo dial up play action against this Todd Bowles Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense? Tampa Bay's defense has massive play action splits. Versus play action, if you use play action against this defense, their pass defense ranks number 28 in EPA. But if you don't use play action, they rank number 11. If you use play action, they rank number 26 in completion rate against them. But if you don't use it, that improves to number 14. If you use play action against them, they allow the number 31 yards per pass attempt, second worst. But if you don't use play action, they're 15th in yards per attempt. Josh Allen has been elite with play action this year, number 8 in EPA, number 4 in success, number 10 in yards per attempt, but they use it at a below average rate. So might they increase play action against a defense that is massive splits and is extremely susceptible to play action? We'll wait and see. Last thing is Dalton Kincaid's absence. So the last game Dalton Kincaid missed was week 6 in Atlanta. Josh Allen completed just 58% of his passes, 6.9 yards per attempt, and threw 2 interceptions. Josh Allen has thrown 5 interceptions this year. Every interception, all 5 of them, have been when Dalton Kincaid has not been out on the field. Kincaid was the largest beneficiary also of play action passes, drawing a target on 35% of Josh Allen's play action dropbacks. So Kincaid's not going to be out there. The Bills need to utilize more play action. Josh Allen throws more interceptions when Kincaid's not there. He's unavailable with injury. How can they build and work around his absence in this game? All of these 3 factors are going to be massively important for the Buffalo Bills offense as they try to rebound and get back on track in potential weather, playing at home to Todd Bowles' aggressive defense. When we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, again, I have to go back to the preview book that I just shared with you earlier. We predicted this was going to happen. We predicted that the Pittsburgh Steelers' schedule to start the year was going to be far easier than their schedule to close the year, and how the Steelers might rack up some wins, but then they ultimately are going to run into some very difficult opponents and potentially drop some games. It's exactly what's happened. This team in their last 4 games has just 1 win, and that came against the Indianapolis Colts in a surprising upset, but they've lost to the Cincinnati Bengals, who they're going to play on Sunday, the Green Bay Packers, and then, of course, last week looked terrible against the LA Chargers in prime time. The good thing about this matchup for them is they have an easy path to success offensively and to help dictate the way that the game flows, and that's the run defense of the Cincinnati Bengals. You'll hear about this a little bit more later on in the show, teasing that for you. But the Cincinnati Bengals run defense ranks 31st in the NFL. The Pittsburgh Steelers have gone up against the number 5 toughest schedule of run defenses so far this season. So they're used to playing teams that are really good against the run. I'll go ahead and list some of them off. Number 1, New England Patriots. Number 2, Cleveland Browns. Number 4, Seattle Seahawks. Number 8, New York Jets. Number 11, Green Bay Packers. Number 12, Indianapolis Colts. That's what, 6 top 12 run defenses that they played so far this year. Now they get to go up against the Cincinnati Bengals, who rank number 31. But wait, it gets worse. How does it get worse? Because you have to incorporate the splits with the absence of Trey Hendrickson. Now, we talked about these splits with you guys on this channel in the offseason because Trey Hendrickson was holding out and there's contractual disputes and we weren't sure how he was going to start the season or would he start the season. He obviously got that contract resolved in short order and was able to play, but now he's injured. Look at the splits with and without Trey Hendrickson. First, we'll talk about Trey Hendrickson on the field. When he's playing for the Cincinnati Bengals defense, keep in mind, he will not be for this game. But when he was playing this season, their run defense actually ranked number 9 in yards per carry, allowing only 4 yards per carry. When Trey Hendrickson has not been playing, dead last, number 32, allowing 6.2 yards per carry without Trey Hendrickson on the field. Their EPA per rush, minus 0.07 for opposing offenses when Trey Hendrickson was on the field. That was the number 9 best run defense. With Trey Hendrickson off the field, plus 0.20 for every time an opponent runs the football. That ranks dead last in the NFL. If you look at first downs only, it's really felt here as well. First downs only, Trey Hendrickson on the field. The Bengals were allowing only 4.4 yards per carry. Off the field, a league worst 7.3 yards per carry. I mean, we were talking about if you do the most dull bonehead move and you hand the ball off to your running back on a 1st and 10, you are going to find yourself with less than 3 yards to go on average against the Cincinnati Bengals on 2nd down. You're going to be in a 2nd and short. I mean, it's unbelievable how terrible this run defense is without Trey Hendrickson on the field. They also plus 0.25 EPA per attempt allowed to opposing running backs on first down runs. That ranks dead last in the NFL as well. They're allowing 20% of runs, 20% of first down runs to gain 10 plus yards without Trey Hendrickson on the field, and 12% of those first down runs to gain 15 plus yards without Trey Hendrickson on the field. I mean, the next closest team to the first down performance of the league worst ranking of the Cincinnati Bengals on first down, let's look at yards per carry. They're allowing, as I mentioned, 7.3 yards per carry on first down runs without Hendrickson. The next closest team, number 31, is the LA Chargers. They're allowing only 5.6. That gap between 5.6 and 7.3 is massive. If we want to look at EPA on those plays, the worst run defense on EPA, first downs, the second worst team, right next to the Cincinnati Bengals, the New York Giants. They're allowing plus 0.09. As I mentioned, the Cincinnati Bengals are allowing plus 0.25. So it's night and day different. We've got some angles here to attack for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but this should make life easier for Aaron Rodgers. We see him all the time. So it's the same way in Green Bay. Getting frustrated. His passes aren't being caught. The guy's running the wrong route. Aaron Rodgers is mumbling to himself as he walks off the field. He might not have to do that quite as much in this game if the Pittsburgh Steelers can just run the ball and continue to run and do so effectively and pick up first downs. Normally, I'm not an advocate of running the ball, but when you're going up against a run defense like this, make life easy on a 41-year-old quarterback and simply take the ball out of his hands more frequently and pick up almost the same yards per attempt as you would a good quarterback passing perspective, 7.3 yards per attempt. That's not bad. That's what these yards per carry are gaining on first downs against the Cincinnati Bengals defense. We just saw the Green Bay Packers get embarrassed on prime time against the Philadelphia Eagles. And it was not embarrassing because they got absolutely blown out. It was embarrassing because of the lack of their offense being able to do anything. Matt LaFleur being their head coach and their play caller. After the game, it was in all the news. Matt LaFleur was asked if he's going to continue to do his play calling duties or he's going to hand those off. Matt LaFleur was asked about his job security. I mean, that's how bad this game was, even though, again, it wasn't a blowout, to just Matt LaFleur's ability to call plays to have success offensively. Now, this is not just a problem for this past primetime game. I'm going to read off some numbers. Over the last 4 games in total, the Packers are averaging 1 point per drive in the first half of games. That ranks 30th in the NFL. But I got another stat that's even more insane. The Packers have scored 1 touchdown on 18 first half possessions over the last 4 games. 1 touchdown in 18 first half possessions. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous for a team the caliber of the Green Bay Packers, who have a quarterback like Jordan Love, who have receivers like they do, has an offensive line like they do, who has a running back like Josh Jacobs. And there's ways that you can have more success than they are, and they need to figure out how to do it. Now, they're running into, pun intended, one of the best situations on the board in that they're going up against the New York Giants. The New York Giants run defense is one of the worst in the NFL. You heard me mention them in the Green Bay Packers, in the Cincinnati Bengals run defense segment, because they were one of the teams that ranked 31st in the NFL, and some of the statistics very close to the Cincinnati Bengals when Trey Hendrickson is not out on the field. The New York Giants run defense is allowing a league high 5.8 yards per carry to running backs, a 55% success rate, which ranks 29th, a league high 2.0 yards before contact per rush to running backs. All of those things will make it life a lot easier for any running attack going up against them. The issue becomes Josh Jacobs, and their performance running the ball has been terrible so far this season. Jacobs is averaging just 3.8 yards per carry. That ranks 36 out of 45 running backs that have run the ball at least 50 times. He's averaging just 0.77 yards before contact per rush. That ranks 40th in the NFL. And a lot of that is dictated by the offensive line. Well, guess what? They just lost their starting center in the game against Philadelphia, and he's done. He's not going to be playing in this game or other games in the near future. So now they're going to have to figure out, do we want to try to lean into this run game against a defense that is terrible against the run and hope that we see enough improvement because they're so bad against the run that then we can actually finally score some touchdowns. 1 touchdown in the last 18 first half drive. We need to score some points here to get Jameis Winston into the part that we want Jameis Winston to be, which is chucking the ball all over the field haphazardly because he's trying to overcome a deficit. We don't want this game to be tight within 1 score because we can't score early, and Jameis just can hand the ball off, and we don't get to take advantage of trying to confuse Jameis Winston, pressure him with our pass rush to make him make mistakes, fumble the ball, throw interceptions, all the things that Jameis Winston tends to be prone to do. He doesn't have to do any of those things. He won't have the opportunity if you can't build a lead and force them out of a run game. So the Green Bay Packers have to figure out a way to come out here and start quickly. It might be leaning into the run, even though the fans don't want them to do that. The fans want points. The fans want yards to be gained, and the run game hasn't been delivering. But might they still try to go with the run a little bit here because of the bad run defense of the Giants, and then pivot quickly if that's not having success to throw the football? I'm not sure the way that the Green Bay Packers are going to look to attack this one from a game plan perspective, but one thing is clear. Matt LaFleur has to make some improvements and do so quickly if the Green Bay Packers are going to get back on track in a very competitive NFC North. Now joining me is our college football betting expert, Ryan McChrystal. You can find all of Ryan's outstanding in-depth analysis on all of the college games over at sharpfootballanalysis.com, where he breaks down lots of different games for us throughout the season. And he's got a couple that we're going to talk about today, but he'll have others up on the website as well. So make sure you go over to sharpfootballanalysis.com to check out more of Ryan's outstanding work. And we're going to start with one of the bigger games of the afternoon slate at 12 noon Eastern time. We have Notre Dame taking on Pitt Panthers. And right now, if we look at the odds jam screen, Pittsburgh is catching 12.5 points at home against Notre Dame. The total sitting right around 53.5 points at most spots. There's some 54s out there. And, we know that Notre Dame has won 7 straight, Ryan. Pittsburgh has won 5 straight. But they care more about the ACC that's about to come up, the next 2 games, than they do about this game. Their coach has said some interesting things. I know you're going to dive into that a little bit more in terms of like the motivation aspect of this game. But why don't you break it down into detail for us?
Yeah, so I'm willing to lay the points and take Notre Dame in this matchup, and the motivation factor that you mentioned is a really big part of that. Obviously, on the surface, this looks like a critical game. Both teams are in the playoff hunt. They're both ranked in the CFP rankings this week. The problem is Notre Dame is chasing an at-large berth, obviously, while Pitt, their only path to the playoff is to win the ACC, and they're alive. They can win the ACC. If they get to the ACC championship game, they're going to need to win their final 2 ACC games. But now this Notre Dame game, a good physical Notre Dame defense sitting right in between when they have to go play Georgia Tech and Miami in those final 2 games, this is basically just looking like an exhibition game for them. And their head coach, Pat Narduzzi, mentioned as much. He said, I don't care if we lose this game by 100 if we win the next 2 games. And so how do they approach this game? Now, normally in college football, we don't ever see teams rest. Like, that's not a thing. You only get 12 games. The guys want to go out there and play. But this is one of the downsides to the 12-team playoff is these late season non-conference games. You can occasionally find yourself in a situation where suddenly the game doesn't really matter to one of the teams. And I believe Pat Narduzzi. I think he is approaching this game differently. And one of the reasons I believe him is because we just saw Navy do it last week. Navy sat their quarterback against Notre Dame last week for the exact same reason. They were going into this meaningless non-conference game when they're still alive for a playoff berth if they run the table and win the American Conference. So their quarterback was a little banged up, almost certainly could have played if that were a big conference game. But they said, you know what? Why should we run him into a physical Notre Dame defense? Give him the week off, rest up. He'll be back for the games that actually matter. Now, Pitt is sort of in a similar situation with at least one of their players and potentially more for reasons I'll get into. One of those is their running back, Desmond Reed, arguably the biggest playmaker on their offense. He was hurt a couple weeks ago. He didn't play in their last game. Now, he's had a bye week coming into this game to recover. It seems like he's expected to play. But what's Pitt's motivation going to be to put him out there and risk more injuries if he's not truly at 100%? Maybe he goes out there and plays a little bit, but if at some point this game gets out of control, do they pull him back? Do they bench him at some point in the game and allow Notre Dame to cover this big number because they're not giving it their full effort in the second half? Now, another factor here is Pitt has a true freshman quarterback, Mason Heinschel. He's been a huge reason why Pitt has, after a little bit of a slow start, they made a quarterback change. He's been a big reason why they've been hot lately, but he's a true freshman. Do you want him going out there against this Notre Dame defense, potentially taking a bunch of hits? Now, he's going to start the game. They're not going to bench him the way Navy did last week. By all indication, he's, close to full strength, if not 100%. They're not just going to bench him, but I have concerns about how this game might go because Notre Dame has a really strong pass rush. This is one of the best pass rush units that Pitt will have faced all season long, and they rank 126th in opponent-adjusted pressure rate allowed. That's for Pitt's offensive line. Notre Dame's defense, by the same metric, they rank 9th. So this is a massive mismatch in the trenches. And you've got a true freshman quarterback out there who doesn't necessarily make quick decisions and get rid of the ball quickly against a good pass rush. If Notre Dame builds a third quarter lead where they're up by 2 scores, does Pitt still want to have their quarterback going out there and throwing the ball around and taking a bunch of hits when they've still got Georgia Tech and Miami in these next couple of weeks? I think that that's a mismatch that, although they're probably entering the game thinking we're still going to use our quarterback and we're still going to throw the ball, but at a certain point, do they change direction and just say, this isn't worth it anymore? He's taking a bunch of sacks. He's getting hit too often. We got to keep him healthy for these next couple of weeks. So like I said, he's not going to get benched right from the start. Their running back probably doesn't get benched right from the start either. But at some point, Notre Dame is probably going to build a lead. They're definitely the better team. And if Pitt starts to change their philosophy in the second half, it just wants to run on the clock and get out of there healthy, it's going to make it a lot easier for Notre Dame to cover this big spread. So I'm willing to lay the points. I think Notre Dame builds a lead and then just blows them out in the fourth quarter when Pitt no longer cares about the game anymore.
Yeah, this is an interesting handicap. And as you mentioned, it happened just 1 week ago. So it's not like this is something that a current coach couldn't look back at and say, hey, this might help this team long term. Maybe we should try this strategy. We know that some of this stuff ends up becoming copycat. So interesting to see if that's what ends up happening. And if that is the case, maybe you look to lay, like you said, the full game as opposed to thinking that you could get a little bit more creative, bet Notre Dame in the first half so that you don't have to lay double digits. Maybe the full game is the better strategy. We've got another game, a nightcap game. It's a great game as well. We're looking on the odds jam screen at Texas taking on Georgia. The game is in Georgia, and this is a rematch of the thrilling SEC championship game last December when Georgia beat Texas 22-19 in overtime. At that point, Georgia quarterback Gunnar Stockton had to get inserted into the game because Carson Beck hurt his shoulder. Kirby Smart then tried to recruit Archie Manning to come to Georgia, but he chose Texas instead. So there's some fun little wrinkles in this game Ryan, right now we're looking at a point spread that has the Georgia Bulldogs favored by about 6.5 across the board. Total sits at 49.5. On the field, who matches up better, and what do you like in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to lay the points with Georgia here. And that might surprise some people who've either heard me talk on the podcast or read some of my write-ups about Georgia games in the past, because I've been pretty down on Georgia, especially on defense. Their defense has been kind of slowly trending in the wrong direction for a couple of years now, and it's almost a liability for them in certain matchups. But in this case, I have a lot more mistrust of the Texas offense with Arch Manning in the passing game and Steve Sarkisian and how he's called plays this year. Obviously part of my question of the Texas offense is Arch Manning. He has not lived up to expectations by any stretch of the imagination. He's gotten a little better as the season has gone on. But in this particular game, my concern really has more to do with how Sark has been unable to adjust to what we've seen from Arch and his strengths and weaknesses in the passing game, because that's how they're going to have to beat Georgia. It's going to have to be Arch. They won't be able to run the ball. Texas barely has a running game. Georgia has a pretty good run defense. They're not going to run the ball down Georgia's throat in this game. It's going to have to be Manning. The problem is Sark has mostly been using Manning as a traditional drop back passer. He takes a traditional drop back of 3 or more steps 62% of the time. Average in college football is only 50%. Don't think it's a coincidence that Arch's traditional dropback rate is closer in line with what the NFL level is. I'm sure his family might have a little say in how they want the offense run at Texas. The problem is, at least at this stage of his career, in his first year as a starter, Manning is not good at processing and reading the defense and making quick decisions to keep the offense on schedule while he's sitting back in the pocket. He's much better when he's getting rid of the ball quickly on some pre-designed plays where he doesn't have to read the whole field. So looking at some stats here on traditional dropbacks, Manning takes pressure on traditional dropbacks 53% of the time. That ranks 127th in the country. Now, Texas doesn't have a great offensive line. It's not 127th, though. It's still a decent unit. That's mostly on Manning. When he takes those traditional dropbacks, he struggles to quickly read the defense and keep things on schedule. He's holding the ball too long. And so part of a factor in that, too, is then even when he does get rid of the ball, he's not really making plays. He only ranks 93rd in completion rate on traditional dropbacks. Now, on quick dropbacks, 0 one-step drops or RPO plays, Manning numbers are much better. And it's because these are more or less predetermined throws, or the decisions that he has to make are looking at just 1 or 2 players, looking at the coverage before the snap. It's a little bit easier to make those types of decisions for a quarterback early in their career. And so that's what Manning's pretty good at right now. He ranks 46th in pressure rate faced on those quick dropbacks, 28th in completion percentage, 34th in yards per attempt. He's actually pretty good on those types of plays. Now, in looking at his career as a whole, maybe a couple of years from now, the traditional dropback stuff catches up to him, and he's lives up to expectations, becomes a great passer. But right now, he's really only good at that one aspect of the game when it's simplified for him. And Sark isn't simplifying things for him most of the time. Now, in this particular matchup, the really big problem is, you might say, well, maybe in this game, it's a big game, they'll just lean into quick dropbacks more. Sark's shown no indication that he's willing to do that, because how they use those quick dropbacks versus traditional dropbacks just depends on whether they're winning the game or not. When they're playing with a lead, Manning's quick dropback rate is 36%. They're playing with a lead. They're trying to protect the ball. Basically, they're doing just quick passing stuff to keep the ball out of harm's way. But when they're trailing, his quick dropback rate is only 14%. They're underdogs in this game. They're on the road. They're going to be trailing for at least part of this game, you would think, at some point, especially in the second half. If they're trailing in the second half and the crowd's into it, and Manning is dropping back trying to read this defense that's good at disguising coverages, even if it's not as talented a Georgia defense as we've seen in the past, going up against an inexperienced quarterback who struggles to read defenses, I don't think they're going to have a problem confusing Arch, maybe forcing a few mistakes. So even though we've seen progress from Arch, I just think this is going to be a really bad matchup for him. So I'm willing to lay the points and take Georgia against the spread.
It is going to be a fun game. I think you're right. Georgia is going to be leading, so Texas will be needing to come back in this one. And it's going to be a tough situation against this defense. As usual, Ryan, outstanding analysis. Of course, you can find more from Ryan over at sharpfootballanalysis.com each and every week. Ryan, enjoy the games on Saturday and good luck. As I've mentioned many times on the show this season, we've partnered with Novig, America's #1 sports prediction market, to give you an exclusive opportunity to try out their platform. To celebrate our annual free week, they are giving all of our listeners a new offer to get up to a $150 purchase match. For new users, sign up with code WARREN to get an initial $100 purchase match. Then, immediately after, you can get an additional $50 match using code FREEWEEK on your next purchase. If you already have a Novig account, you're in luck. Just use code FREEWEEK on your next purchase to get another $50 match. This deal expires Monday. Click the links below and read more in the description below. Make sure that you jump on this now. Now joining us is Rich Hribar, our fantasy football guru over at Sharp Football Analysis and loyal member of the Sharp Prop Squad. As you guys know, all of Rich's outstanding analysis is over at sharpfootballanalysis.com, and it's free for you this week. Keep in mind, make sure you guys are signing up for Free Week, and you can get everything for free. There's a ton of stuff there. Rich has been joining us every single week. He's been on a heater pretty much the entire season. It almost never stops. Let's hope it continues this week. And first up, we'll go to the odds jam odds screen. And Rich, you like the longest reception for Christian Watson over 20.5 yards. That's pretty much what it is at every single book across the board. What is it about Christian Watson in this matchup with the New York Giants that has you liking the over 20.5?
Yeah, you look at Christian Watson, since he's come back, they haven't been able to really, kind of nurse his return from his ACL. He's been kind of thrown to the fire. He's been on the field for 65%, 79%, 85% of the dropbacks in his 3 games since he returned. He has hit this number in all 3 games since returning. He actually has a catch of 25 or more yards in all 3 games. So you have a little bit of cushion there. He's averaging 26 air yards per target. We also have no idea who's even going to be available for the Packers around Christian Watson coming into Sunday. We got Romeo Doubs dealing with a chest injury. Matthew Golden missed week 10. Dontavian Wicks is questionable. So they might have to build more of the playing out of Christian Watson, even though we're going to get a healthy dose of Josh Jacobs against the Giants for sure. Believe that. But the Giants are 30th in receptions allowed to wide receivers on throws 10 or more yards downfield. They have allowed a 40.5% completion rate on throws to wide receivers 20 or more yards downfield. That's 22nd. The Giants have allowed 16 catches of 25 or more yards to wide receivers. That's 30th in the league. So one of these ones is going to find Christian Watson on Sunday.
Christian Watson, obviously a big part of this offense in his return, and he's been playing pretty well, and Jordan Love has been finding him pretty frequently. So let's hope he gets at least one of 21 plus. Like you said, he's cleared this with ease over the past several games. Going to need to do it again here for us. Now we've got a rushing prop for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. And this was like a career game last time around for Jaylen Warren going up against the Cincinnati Bengals defense. And it seems to be a career game for every single running back who goes up against the Cincinnati Bengals defense every single week. Talk to us about why you like Jaylen Warren over 75.5 rushing yards, which is currently available -112 over at DK. There's some 76.5, 77.5, but certainly that's why you have the odds jam screen. You can shop around, find the best line, and go bet it at DK. Don't go bet it at ESPN. And as a reminder, you can try this screen for 2 weeks for free. Just click the link in the description below. But what do you like about this one, Rich?
Yeah, one of the few bright spots on Sunday night was still Jaylen Warren at 16 touches for 91 yards. Over the past 4 games, he has dominated backfield runs. He has 84%, 73%, 80%, and 88% of the backfield rushing attempts. Now he is a home favorite against the Bengals team that has been absolutely tormented by opposing backfields, as you alluded to. They're allowing 5.5 yards per carry to running backs. They've allowed 100 yards rushing to every backfield they have faced over their past 8 games. The past 3 games, they've allowed 141, 198, and 213 rushing yards to running backs. The last time we seen them, Kyle Monangai and Britton Brown combined for over 200 rushing yards. When these teams played in week 7, Warren rushed for a career high 127 yards. He had 8 yards per carry that game. He had a 56.3% success rate rushing that night. He had 4 runs of double-digit yardage. He gained positive yardage on all 16 carries, and that was in a game where they were kind of chasing points in the second half and weren't really in a rushing script. As home favorites, I expect them to be running the football here, and for Jaylen Warren to clear this with ease, and then potentially, maybe this is one that you take to the century mark.
Okay, so a little bit of ladder opportunity, and I agree. One of the big things, we talked about this earlier on the show, the Trey Hendrickson on-off splits from a rushing perspective. This Bengals defense is abysmal without Trey Hendrickson, and we knew this going into the season. We talked about it all offseason because Trey Hendrickson was having a contract dispute with the Cincinnati Bengals. Would he return? He does return. the run defense is better than what it is now with him being back out of the lineup. So big time problems for them. And, honestly, Rich, it's a great thing to lean on for Aaron Rodgers. If he wants to take a little of the ego, set it aside. Don't throw all those passing touchdowns. Try not to accumulate the passing yards. Just take a nice, easy victory. And obviously, Mike Tomlin made some positive comments this past week about Jaylen Warren and trying to get him more touches. So that bodes well for you as well. Okay, now we're going from some positive thoughts to some negative thoughts. We're rooting for a game that does not feature an explosive run out of Kyren Williams. Los Angeles Rams lead running back going up against just a dominant run defense of the Seattle Seahawks. As we look at the odds jam screen right now, we see 13.5 across the board. You don't really have to go shopping too much for this one. 13.5 under -115 is pretty standard. You think Kyren is not going to have a run of 14 or more yards. You're betting the under 13.5. Why are you doing that?
Yeah, this one will be short and sweet. Kyren Williams, very effective, singles and doubles type of a hitter. He doesn't strike out a lot often. Doesn't hit a lot of home runs. He has 3 runs this season of 14 or more yards. And now he's going against a matchup. Seattle is second in yards per carry allowed to running backs. They are 8th in yards allowed before contact against running backs. Not even allow a full yard before contact, 0.98 yards. Seattle has allowed 1 run of 14 or more yards to a running back this season. And they've allowed the fewest number of runs of 10 or more yards this season, which is 9. So short and sweet. That's how I'm playing this one. Is you've got a player that this line he hasn't hit very often against the team, has allowed one running back to do it once.
And I'm just looking up on my database. I believe that singular run was last week, DeMarcado, and it was in the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken, of an absolute blowout victory for the Seattle Seahawks. They were resting probably some of their starters on defense, and DeMarcado just broke off, I think it says here, 55-yard run. So we got some positive things going for you in this regard. And the only thing that scares me slightly is that we know we're going to get some volume from Kyren Williams. So it's not a situation where, Blake Corum is probably going to get fewer touches. You wrote an outstanding research about how Blake Corum gets way fewer touches when the game is close, when the game is a larger lead, 7+ points. That's when Blake Corum gets a little bit more involved. So it's probably going to be a lot of Kyren Williams potentially here. But we do believe that Kyren is not going to have a long run against this stout Seattle defense. So those are 3 of Rich's favorite looks this week. You can catch more of them as part of our props package that's available over at Sharp Football Analysis. Rich contributes to our props package as well as Ray and Curtis and myself, obviously. And we've got a lot more there cooking up for you. So make sure that you guys go over and go to sharp.football to get on board for free week, where we've got all of our props, but also all of Rich's great game previews, analysis, fantasy rankings, and things to get you prepared to figure out who you should start, who you shouldn't start this weekend in all of your fantasy football games. So it's an important time of the year for these regular teams, these real life teams, Rich, as we get them suited up for playoff contention and making the playoffs or playoff seeding. It's also an important time for people to have a good fantasy football week. And you've got them covered with free week this week over at sharpfootballanalysis.com. So make sure that everybody takes advantage of it. Good luck this week, Rich, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Good luck, everyone.
Now joining me is our NFL ref analyst, Joe Gibbs. As a reminder, you can find all of Joe's outstanding work over at sharpfootballanalysis.com, where every single week he prepares an article that previews a couple of the biggest games of the week and some betting angles that you can utilize from the refs and their crews, as well as some historical data on all of the refs and their crews at the bottom of that article. So definitely take a look at that. But each week we love bringing Joe on to talk about a couple of games specifically, and there's a couple of big games this week. But first and foremost, let's talk about this interesting tilt where the Seattle Seahawks are taking on the LA Rams. This game is in Los Angeles right now. If we look at the odds jam screen, we've got LA favored by about 3 to 3.5 points, depending upon the book. So make sure that you shop around. The total is sitting right on 48.5 everywhere. John Hussey is going to be the referee for this game. What does Hussey's involvement in this game mean to the outcome, Joe?
Well, it certainly bodes well for the Rams. Hussey's been the best home field referee in the NFL for the past 8 seasons, and his home field advantage tilts higher in divisional matchups like we had this week. So here's some numbers. Since 2016, home teams, divisional home teams, 45-16 straight up, 74%, 41, 18, and 2 against the spread, 70% when John Hussey officiates. So huge advantage there for the Rams from an officiating standpoint. As far as points of emphasis, Hussey, 41% offensive holding, false start, which is in the top 5 in that category. Both these teams don't have an issue with that, though. They're both very efficient on the offensive side of the ball. The Seahawks rank 31st and the Rams rank 32nd in pre-snap penalties per game. So they're super efficient. The Rams themselves, they're on a historical pace here as far as being the least penalized offense over the course of the season. I mean, they're just moving at a different level to everyone else. So they're not setting themselves back with those false starts, illegal shifts, offensive holding penalties. And they actually have the personnel to overcome those penalties, but they're not committing them. So they're playing ahead of the chains, and they're just putting so much pressure on the opposing defense. As far as an area to watch, defensive pass interference, that was the one area that I did see where could play a part on Sunday. Hussey does rank in the top 5 for defensive pass interference. The Rams and the Seahawks are top 10 beneficiaries of defensive pass interference penalties, primarily through Jackson Smith and Jigba for Seattle and Devontae Adams for the Rams this season, although Puka Nacua gets his fair share as well historically. So on the edge there, the defensive pass interference, who benefits the most from those calls, if any? That could go to playing a part in who comes out on top on Sunday. I just trust McVay and Stafford. They have the championship pedigree. Seattle's kind of in a show-me spot here. They've been steamrolling teams, but the opponents have been less than stellar. This is a big spot for them to really show they belong in that upper tier of teams, whereas the Rams do belong there. They've done it. They've won championships, and I still lean to them, especially with Hussey on the game Sunday.
Yeah, I'm curious how that plays into the total with the extra defensive pass interference that they call. I can only imagine that does help the over as opposed to the under, although you then also sort of wonder, will they change some of those calls to defensive holdings, which is 5 yards as opposed to the full spot foul like defensive pass interference brings to the table. The other game that you want to talk about today, put on the list, it's going to be a great game, obviously. If we look at the OddsJam screen, Kansas City Chiefs traveling to Denver to take on the Denver Broncos. Right now, the Kansas City Chiefs are laying 4 at several books. They're laying 3.5 at others. So if you do like the Kansas City Chiefs, make sure that you're shopping around, and especially if you want to grab the 4 by taking the Denver Broncos as home underdogs, you need to pick your spots wisely if you're looking to bet that. Total sits right around 44.5 at most spots, but there are a couple of 45s on the board as well. What do you think that Adrian Hill brings to the mix for this game, Joe? That's the ref who's going to be on the call.
Well, from a total perspective, it's the under. He leads the league so far this season, 7-2 to the under this season. In divisional matchups in his career, 18, 10, and 1 to the under, 65%. So you can see a strong trend here to the under. As far as the side goes, divisional home teams, 13 and 16 in Adrian Hill's career. Home underdogs, as the Broncos are this week, just 7-9 against the spread in Hill's career. The Chiefs, 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the spread with Adrian Hill. I don't read too much into that. It's 4 games. The Chiefs have won a lot of games. They were favored by an average of 9 points in those contests. So winning all 4 is not really a big deal, but it does play on social media, so I figured I'd put it out there. As far as points of emphasis, again, the offensive holding, false start combination. In raw numbers, Hill's crew ranked 2nd in the league, calling those 2 penalties per game on combined average. But the primary driver for them is offensive holding. They co-rank 2nd in the league, and that's big because the Broncos team, number 5, offensive holding penalties per game. The Chiefs rank as a top 10 penalized team for offensive holding. However, the Broncos, and I wrote about this in the offseason as far as home field advantage, when they play at home, the Broncos defense and the crowd, they are top 5 this season, generating opposing false starts and offensive holding penalties on the opposing offense. So keep that in mind. Whoever can sort of navigate that minefield, the offensive holding false start combination, that'll go a long way to securing a win with these guys. You don't want to be getting in those 3rd and longs, 2nd and longs by offensive holding or a false start. It just makes things real tough to get ahead of the chains. And so, yeah, keep an eye on that one. Offensive pass interference. The Broncos lead the league in offensive pass interference penalties. Hill ranks number 1 for offensive pass interference penalties after 10 weeks of the season. So, again, keep an eye on that one. It's not a high-volume penalty, but when it is called, it's extremely impactful. And this Denver offense is just not playing well enough to overcome those penalties. So then it just comes down to who do you trust here? And, the record with Mahomes and Reed off the bye, it's well documented. Broncos off a mini bye themselves. This is, I wouldn't say it's a must win, but it's certainly a game that, look, if the Chiefs lose this, they can kiss the AFC West title goodbye. So they understand what's at stake here, and it comes down to trust. And from what I've seen from Denver, like, what's their ceiling? I don't know what you think, Warren, but the ceiling for me offensively from Denver is maybe 17 points. If things break well, maybe 20 from what we've seen so far. Spags is going to have a whole bunch of stuff dialed up here. They've got plenty of time to prepare for it. The Chiefs, it's in their DNA to rise to the occasion in these games. I lean to the under more than anything else, but if I had to go with the side, I'd lean to the Chiefs at 23-17 type game.
It does seem like there's not a lot of wiggle room with this number in terms of how much Denver is being made an underdog at home and having the significantly better record. It feels like this is a strong pro-Chiefs line. But as you mentioned, Andy Reid off the bye and needing this game badly, the Chiefs are going to be coming in here loaded for bear. It's going to be a fun game, one of the great games on the afternoon slate. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Outstanding insight, Joe. Wanted to ask you real quick before we let you go about the Sunday night football game. We just watched the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football take care of the Green Bay Packers on the road in a game that ended up being extremely tight, came down to the wire, some questionable coaching decisions late, kept the game more tight than maybe it otherwise could have been. But now we've got the Detroit Lions going into Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Who is the ref on this game, Joe? And do you think that bodes better for the home Philadelphia Eagles as the small favorite, or better for the road Detroit Lions as a short dog?
Alex Kemp is the referee for the game. As far as the favorites go, he's on a historic run with favorites. This is dating back to the start of the 2024 season. Favorites are on a 24-2 straight up run and 21-5 against the spread in Alex Kemp officiated contests. So that's just something I figured I'd put out there. As far as the game itself, offensive holding, Kemp leads the league in offensive holding penalties. The Lions are the least penalized team for offensive holding, but that Philly defensive front gets after it, and they can create chaos up front. So I'm really curious to see how Kemp's crew calls the offensive holding battle on Sunday night. One more thing, third down penalties. No crew calls more defensive third down penalties than Alex Kemp's in 2025. The most penalties, the most penalty yards, and the most automatic first downs via penalty are awarded on third down plays from Alex Kemp's crew more than any other crew. So keep that in mind Sunday night.
Yeah, I'm looking at the odds screen right now. It looks like this 46.5 is the total. Maybe a little bit of wind there in Philadelphia. Got some wind. Some of these games on the East Coast on Sunday with the Eagles laying 2.5 points at home. So that's going to be the nightcap to what should be a great viewing day, a long viewing day, given the fact that we've got the Madrid game first thing in the morning, very early for you out in Las Vegas there, Joe. And then we've got a great set of games in the afternoon slate, the late afternoon slate, the 4 p.m. Eastern time slate, outstanding games, which is going to be payback for the terrible games that were last week in that same slate. And then, of course, this great game to wind out the weekend. So great stuff as always. Make sure that you guys are checking out Joe's analysis and article over at sharpfootballanalysis.com. And of course, we'll see Joe every single week here on this show. Thanks, Joe.
Great. Thanks, Warren. Good luck.
All right, now it's time. It's time for my Novig value play of the week. We're 9-1 on these so far this season, 31-10 in the 2 years that I've been doing this show. Obviously, we're hoping to roll and improve to 10-1. I got a little surprise for you this week. Got a surprise. Instead of just giving you my singular Novig value play of the week, which becomes my best bet and one of the stronger bets that we share with subscribers, instead of giving you just one, I'm giving you multiple. I'm giving you many. And how I'm doing that is with free week. Free week over at sharpfootballanalysis.com. All you need to do is go to sharp.football and you'll see the link at the top allows you to sign up for free week, which gets you my best bet on this podcast usually, as well as all my other bets for week 11 for free, for absolutely free. So you'll get all the strong props, not just this one, but multiple others that are slightly below that, all of our regular valued props, all of our sides, totals, teasers, etc., plus all of our detailed analysis. We preview and write up every single game. the way that we think these games are going to work, the way we see players having value or not having value based upon the matchups that they're going to be playing, based upon injuries. You can get our DFS plays of the week. You get so much information plus these bets for free week, because this is usually behind the scenes for only our paying clients. We want to open that up. We do that once a season. We open it up for you guys, pull back the curtain, let you guys check out exactly how we do things over at sharpfootballanalysis.com, because we're really proud of the work that we put into it. I work with some great people, and we're all absolute grinders in terms of how hard we work each and every week, coming up with great insight to get you ready for every single game. So no matter what the game is, you're going to have some things to look at, to read, to use for your own analysis, and sometimes some outright betting recommendations, player recommendations for fantasy football, DFS, or prop bets, etc. So this week, if you want to get the best bet of the week, go to sharp.football, join free week, and you're going to see it right there when you sign up. The best bet of the week plus all of our other bets this week. That's our gift to you. Hope you guys enjoy it. Hopefully it's successful, obviously. We'll be back with our regularly scheduled best bet of the week on the podcast next week. But this week, we're giving you that bet and everything else for free over at sharp.football. Go check it out. And that'll do it for the Week 11 Sharp Football Analysis Preview Show, the fastest growing betting show on the planet. Make sure you guys take advantage of free week. Go and sign up so that you can get our best bets and all of our other plays that we normally give just to clients this week. Go to sharp.football to check that out. Make sure that you guys are subscribed to the show as well over on YouTube or in your favorite podcast apps. We will see you soon.
Go,